Daft Punk's Discovery. Released in 2001, I think it was. Yeah. No, great album, yeah. Formative. But what is it that makes it special? First, let's do what I usually do on a Wednesday evening and have a little look at what David Guetta's up to.
Now we're going to create chords. I'm going to select everything and I'm going to create normal chords.
Here we see Guetta, a master of his craft, working on a remix of his track Titanium. Everything he's doing is fairly typical of modern electronic dance music production methods. He's working on his computer inside a digital audio workstation. Now take a look at how fixed everything is to the grid. These chords aren't played in live, they're pre-programmed to play perfectly in time with the metronome. The same goes for the bass and the drums and the lead. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing, but I'd argue that the presence of this quantized grid can sometimes lead modern dance music to feel formulaic and sterile. I'm not necessarily saying that about David Guetta. I love David Guetta. The thing is, the tracks in Discovery would also be fixed to this same rigid grid as will be imposed by this drum machine, yet the music produced rarely feels constrained by it. If you listen to a track like High Life, for example, you hear how repetitive and structured it is, yet it rarely feels monotonous, and in my opinion at least, there's an immense sense of vitality within the track. How did Daft Punk achieve this? Let's have a listen to Thomas Bangalter talk about the sampling on Discovery.
Really also, we've always loved sampling and we're like really wondering what was the magic in those samples, what was the magic in those little bits of live snippets of audio recordings that had so much sparkle.
What was the magic in those little bits of life? I think that sentence is key. Come on, Baron. Here we're witnessing a recording session from George Duke's Don't Let Go album. Duke is relevant because his 1979 song I Love You More was featured on the third track of Discovery called Digital Love. There's a clear difference in environment that these musicians are working in compared to David Guetta, and I don't think it's too much of a stretch to claim that what's been produced immediately feels more expressive without being plugged into a digital audio workstation or fixed to a rigid grid. The musicians seem more free to experiment, make mistakes and take risks. I think it's helpful to compare the different outputs of each environment to language. Guetta's output, precise and calculated, resembles a PDF Word document. On that digitised screen, you know what all the words mean, and when they're put together into sentences, you can comprehend them. Should these words be spoken aloud, however, a whole new realm of nuance is produced. The tone, pace and emotion that occurs when the words are spoken brings them to life. This is what I'm claiming is happening in the analogue studio environment. When Thomas talks about the little pockets of life contained in the samples of Discovery, I think he's been very literal. Those samples are full of nuance, littered with human imperfection. You put some of them in a track and the track comes to life, and if their sparkle is dusted throughout an entire album, then you end up with a beaming constellation of nostalgia. I think this is why Discovery feels so dynamic. The line between Duke and Guetta is treaded perfectly. The album embraces the highly structured, hypnotic dance music formats whilst retaining the excitement and energy present within a 1970s live analogue studio session. I gotta put